then like men don't, right? Men just carry on like planting their seeds or whatever. Um, for women, we go.
Yeah, but I think because, we all go through different stages of vulnerability, as we get older as well. And, sometimes, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves thinking that it's, come on, we should have it together by now. Yeah. But we're only human.
No.
We still go through
Yeah.
different experiences.
Yeah. I read somewhere just this week, I don't know the exact quote, but it says, like, why do women menopause and then like men don't, right? Men just carry on like planting their seeds or whatever. Um, for women, we go through a different stage because another part of us is like we have this um, inner essence that needs to blossom, and it can only blossom at menopause. Then we're not paying attention to the other stuff, like getting busy, with taking care of children, running the household. We don't have those kind of responsibilities, or not that much. Then we can truly blossom and allow the inner essence to come up. And I feel like it's quite a powerful time in a woman's life, when they go through the menopause. And it's not a bad thing. I have, spoken to too many women who fear the aging process, and they think that, oh, this is the end, but it's actually just the beginning. It's the beginning of life. It's like, teenagers going through their adolescence, but then for women, when you hit menopause, is a new beginning. You become a totally different person. And you know what's the interesting thing? I just checked, right? What is the trending question that midlife is? A prominent question resonating among individuals in midlife is, am I living a life that truly reflects who I am now? Isn't that interesting that midlifers are questioning this, and they are talking about like their personal identity, their values, their purpose? I think a lot of them are also looking at purpose, men or women. Like, okay, I've come to a stage in my life, I have kids, I'm about to retire, but what about my purpose? Have I lived a life of purpose? Am I fulfilled? Do I feel fulfilled? Who am I? The identity, and also wanting to be much more authentic.
Yeah, that's so true. That's spot on, because you don't have all the distractions as what you've had, when you were younger, and you've got time to, for these other things to come up, because life is changing around you. And in my case, families start to go, well, I mean, they left home a long time ago, but, they're really doing, their own individual things, and you might not hear them as often. So you're used to a constant conversation all the time. And then all of a sudden, but it seems like that, you feel like you're alone now. And yes, you can continue those conversations if you pick up the phone and initiate it, but just general day to day. But it allows you to look at other things that you may have sort of, brushed over because, you've been distracted. So it allows you to look at all these different things. And one of my big things is that I like to solve problems myself, but also talking through them also helps. And, to the right people. And, particularly with, some of the challenges that I've been facing recently, it's not a topic that I can just so easily discuss. And so I stop and think about it first before I speak to someone, but then find that I can actually think about it myself, and I don't bother anyone with it. And, you learn to speak to the right people, obviously, when it's time to reach out. But because there's less, less distractions, there's more time on your hands. You've got more time for reflection. And, it's an interesting place to be because, gone are the days when you used to feel like, God, anything just for a bit of peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And now you think, oh, God, I'd love to have, that chatter back again.
But, it goes both ways. I think for people who are not used to self-introspection, like for us, for you, you just said, and for me as well, like, oh, when am I going to have some peace and quiet, right? Because that's almost like a default, like we know how to go into self-introspection. We think about things, and so we do need that time alone, right, to think about things. And now that the kids are not living at home anymore, and sometimes you go like, oh, okay, like I haven't had that conversation with my kids, or and you try and pin it down. Okay, let's have this chat when we next pick up the phone, right? So you kind of need to arrange that to keep up with the connection. So then there is the other group where they're not used to self introspection, and then when the kids leave, that's where everything can spiral. And I have found with many midlifers, they spiral because there is no sense of purpose, because their focus and attention is all on the kids, right? Like they haven't found themselves, their voices, they don't know what they stand for. And so midlife can be such a big struggle. And then they try to hang on to their kids, and they try to do it in extremely manipulative ways as well, to hang on to the kids as much as, because it gives them a sense of identity. And I have clients who struggle with this with their parents, because the parents will come up with all kinds of, I wouldn't call it imaginary, but they would make up problems just to keep the children be there. And because they're lonely, they don't know what to do with themselves, and they don't know who they are without the feedback, right, coming from their own children. And so it can be a very traumatic time for many people as well, because they don't know who they are anymore. And so this birthing process of a midlifer, right, it's quite challenging, and especially if you're not used to self introspection. I think that can be very challenging. And then you're constantly looking outwards, right? Or then you start to numb the feelings of loneliness with stuff, with alcohol, with food, with things like that. And so I think whoever's watching this, if you're going through what you're going through, it's a natural part of being human, and you just have to reach out to the right people, seek help, and seek professional help if needed. And I feel one of the most important thing is, if you can't seek professional help, at least do something physical, some movement, some stretching, I think that makes a difference. Yeah, go for a
Yeah.
walk, or something, right? Something physical. Because being still sometimes just makes it much more difficult. So some form of movement, like go down to the shop, or just hang out at some coffee shop, that helps as
Well,
well.
it breaks the energy. Otherwise, the energy is too stagnant. And when you're sitting in it, it's not going to budge. Whereas
Yeah.
when you just go for a walk, it's not about the exercise,
Yeah.
it's about the movement.
Yeah.
Change of scenery, or, it could just be a small walk, but it just gets you out. It just breaks you away from that environment. And, I've often thought, with menopausal stages is, particularly in my younger years when I was married, obviously that era of my life was so different to what I'm experiencing now. I'm not foreseeing all that was going to change ahead of me, of course. But I think you've got it right. If you're financial, you like your own company, and you like doing things, like obviously by yourself, you're a real introvert. I think people really struggle when obviously the financial situations change, but also if they, are a real people person and they love that interaction. I would look at it personally, for me, even if I did have the finances to go and travel, do all this, do all that, it means absolutely nothing for me going by myself. Yeah, I could see it, but the enjoyment comes from sharing with someone. Look at that stupid thing. Yeah, I see it, but it feels so nice to share that with someone, at the same time. I think it just depends on the personality type that you are.
Yeah.
Obviously, someone that loves backpacking or loves their own company and loves traveling by themselves, that's not an issue. But there will become an issue in other areas, so it really comes down to your personality type and how those challenges reflect each other, because one's good for one person might not necessarily be the answer for somebody else. But I think just broadly speaking is that, when you do go through these changes, it's just and able to identify them, that it is normal. I'm aware that other people have a different method of dealing with things. So
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest reassurance is that you're not alone. There are changes that do take place. And I think having a little bit of sympathy with someone that's going through it, as opposed to, it's really difficult, to give advice because you're not experiencing those same problems.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Are you on TikTok?
I used to be, then I found it too time wasting.
Okay. There is a quite well, I guess is on my algorithm, right? I see a lot of midlife women, well, some midlife men as well, dropping wisdom, and then the people start to comment, right? And then they have like a support system going on via TikTok. I mean, it's not like it's not like an official support system,
Yeah.
but the fact that everyone is there, right, commenting and looking at a video and resonating with the wisdom or making them feel better or something, right? And there's a large number of midlifers, women doing that now, and just creating content just for that, and they may be sharing about their personal lives. Well, some people do go, like really extreme, right? Too much information. Whereas some is like they really have it down, in the middle ground and really good value. And men as well. There are quite a few men helping people maybe with relationship issues, and they're giving guidance. And I feel that that's something that is of value. There's this guy, I don't know his name. I've watched a few of his TikTok videos where he does live coaching or live counseling of relationship issues, right? And so someone would say, oh, like my husband did this, and immediately he would tell them that's a red flag, because sometimes women can't see it. They are just in it too far, right, in the relationship. So I found some of these accounts, right, that are really of good value. And so people are turning to social media. That's the thing. And for support, for guidance and all of that. And hopefully they turn to our podcast and YouTube for the guidance as well. We welcome any questions that anyone may have, and maybe it's a good thing that they can send in questions and drop us an email, or if you're too shy to comment below, at least drop us an email, and then we'll answer your questions. We'll do it on this platform.